Everybody ready?
I think so.
Okay, well then we'll call the meeting to order and begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mockler.
Here.
Graylow.
Here.
Smith.
Here.
Teasy.
Here.
Hammond.
Here.
All right. Are there any conflicts of interest to declare? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Move to approve the minutes. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any visitors to be heard? Nobody online? Okay. And Brad. Is Brad online? From Alteg?
On there.
Brad's iPhone.
I am online. It took me a minute to find the unmute. Sorry.
Okay. So we've got a pay request and change order for the microsurfacing, and the amount is $932,865.50. Is there a motion to approve?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second, and this would be a contract with Missouri Petroleum Products signed off on by Alteg. Any discussion? I guess my only question, and I think I know what the answer was. There's nothing about percentage of work completed, Brad. Is
that's because sorry. So when it's 100%. So
okay,
and so that's just it's the final pay. It's really the first and final because they go fast, and then the final change order. What that does is just changes all the, the pay quantities that were in our plans to the as constructed and kind of closes the project. So
yeah, that's what I thought, since it said first and final, but the lines were blank, so I thought I'd ask and get it on the record.
Yep, 100% done.
Great. Any other questions, discussion?
Where'd that come in as far as the bid?
I think we were under by about like $45,000 is what we came in. We moved some roads around a little bit to took one off and added one because of the grain handling unit, but it was a bit, just a little bit under.
The original contract was $985, and then we were under by $52,900. Does that sound right?
Yep.
That sounds about right.
One stretch.
Sorry, guy, I'm in my car.
There's one stretch, Brad, too, that was beyond what microsurfacing would help on.
Yeah, that was on the end of Main Street, and we decided to postpone on that one and kind of reevaluate what to do there.
Yeah, and I've got quite a few very positive comments about the work. People are thrilled.
The Park Road.
The Park Road and the Park Road and a few other folks who live up north were really excited. They have their road looking so good. So good project.
Good.
Right. Well, if there are no other questions, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Brad.
Okay.
And, anything else?
Nothing else. I'm going to sign off.
Okay. That's good. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Michael Smith, law enforcement agreements.
So, I received some proposed documents from the city as it relates to their side of the agreement. My understanding is they're gonna be meeting today to address their side of things, and I think we need to formally, perhaps, I think there's some things we haven't formally done as a commission that just needs to take place before both sides can be in formal agreement. So I think that includes just a motion and a formal agreements amongst the commission as it relates to the sale of some of the lands parcels that we were dealing with, as well as the old Vermillion PD building. So if I remember right, we've done some of this, but we're lacking on at least a couple of them.
So we've done everything. We've approved a chairperson to sign the purchase agreement for the 7 acres,
Yes.
the transfer of the strip of land, and the purchase of the law enforcement center. The only thing we haven't done is approve that we're going to pay for the James Street up front.
Yeah.
Our portion of that street.
Our half of that, yeah.
Right.
Yep. And
We can't say half,
Our
portion, because they're gonna
portion.
oversize the street, and anytime they oversize the street, the city pays for that.
I see.
And I believe once we have that finalized, that's kind of then we're there as far as, I mean, obviously there's gonna be things we need to sign in the future. But once we've jumped through that last hurdle, I think we're kind of there until we sign documents. Did the city attorneys change anything? I haven't heard back from them yet. My understanding is they're gonna go through their process, which includes some resolutions today. Their attorney's still looking at it, but they're gonna agree to it formally. At least that's the hopeful game plan today. And then I'll work with her once she gets back any feedback to me, but I don't think there'll be any drastic changes based off of the conversations I've had. I think we're just making sure that she has time to review things, and the city follows through the steps that they have to for time in order to approve what they need to do too.
I'm hearing on a text message here that Michael and Dick need to move their mics closer.
Okay.
And I think it would make sense to have a written formal agreement, since we are not doing the oversize of James Street. We're only doing our portion,
Sure.
our half of
And
I
that's
can-
what the agreement says.
Yeah, there is a portion. From my understanding, I think the city has an agreement that the city will sign. I can certainly, if you guys want to do it that way with the commission as well, I can prepare
Sure.
something quickly for your signature as well, if that's something we want to do. Just
Well,
in writing.
so the city is passing an agreement and they'll send it to us to then approve.
My understanding is that resolution will just be signed by the city.
That's theirs for their paperwork, for their file.
Okay. And so, but it sounds like what they're looking for us is some kind of extra agreement on James
It's
Street.
gonna be a sentence long that says we're going to pay our portion of James Street
Okay.
upon completion. Paid in full.
Mhm.
Because normally if you're a regular business, I think they give you 10 or 20 years.
I
Correct.
think it's 20 years. Yeah.
In their initial proposal was the county agreed to reimburse city 1/2 of the cost of the standard street.
Okay.
And,
Right.
And that language is
And-
in there.
Well, this was their initial agreement built in the James right away site over 20 years, but we're not doing over 20 years, correct?
Right, we're doing
Yeah,
it
we're
as
just doing
soon as it's
one-time
completed.
Yeah.
But
That was their initial agreement.
Since you have that in front of you, maybe you could make the motion amended. Sorry, I hate to.
Yeah, no, I know John Prescott was concerned about this, approached me about it, to clarify.
And we had a conversation as well. I mean, he has something in writing that the city was that intends on executing. I would just follow the same language that they've put in. I think, that's that document. I can provide that document to you guys if you don't have it.
We don't have it.
Pull that up real quick. I'll just email it to everyone here.
Great.
Okay, just sent it. So when you get this resolution, it's in the fourth paragraph. Now therefore be it resolved. That's the language that the city has used, that they intend on pursuing today.
Okay.
Our responsibility is really the last two.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, first is just giving the information as to what the street is, and then the second is that last paragraph talks about payment.
I think we could probably just pass this resolution, changing the last paragraph, saying, instead of is planning on, just the city of Vermillion understands, that, or actually, we don't even need that. Clay County will, make the payment for the above referenced infrastructure cost.
So I don't think we want to do a resolution though.
No.
Because we can change the resolution. It's not binding.
Yeah.
We need a contract that just says we're going to pay it,
Okay.
Yeah.
that they agree to. You know, because we could get mad and just go, well, we're not going to pay it. And we're going to change our resolution and we're not bound by anything.
Good thought. Good thought.
And that's something I could certainly put together
Yep.
here today. And if it's acceptable, I could have, if it works for you to be able to stop in, or I could bring it over to you for signature, whatever works for you. I think the language is probably, I agree with you. I mean, we can remove the understanding from its negotiations. It's planning on making that payment and just making through a contract saying we will pay this 30 days after substantial completion of James Street, and including the language that's in that third paragraph.
Okay.
It should be very quick.
So then all we need then is a motion, to, authorize the chair to sign, a contract with the city of Vermillion,
In accordance
For the
with-
construction of James Street.
for the construction of,
in accordance with paragraphs 3 and 4 of this
Or do
document.
they have a resolution number?
Yeah, it's, I don't have a resolution.
No.
It just says resolution for construction of James Street.
Do we reference their resolution?
So have they approved this yet?
No,
No.
tonight.
No.
Yeah, so. Kind of, we can use their wording in our motion.
Yeah. And this may all change after the meeting tonight. It is dated 5th of September.
So if their wording might change, we should just keep it simple then on, we'll pay for our half of a standard 33-foot street on James Street.
That's the right thing to do.
yep. Is that a motion, Travis?
Yeah, if
Right.
it's if it's clear enough, and we
Yeah.
can clarify it more if we need.
We agreed to pay our portion of the James Street improvements as outlined in resolution.
There is no number.
There is no resolution.
There is none, but it's dated. It'd be city resolution for construction of James Street dated September 5th.
All right. So good on the motion, Travis?
Yeah.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's
I haven't, I've gotten the notification of their noon and night or their packet for tonight's meeting, but I have not opened it.
That's fair.
I normally do on the weekend, over the weekend. This time I didn't get to it.
Sure. Then there are other very similar resolutions that are included in that packet if you want to look at that. My understanding is their plan is to utilize these resolutions for their notice portion. They have statutory notices that they have to give, so they're going to intend on moving forward through resolutions today. Those are all available in that packet for the city for if you guys want to look at those.
Good. Sounds like that'll do the trick for us so far.
We're all hoping for it.
Hopefully there's signatures tonight.
Right.
Have you signed our purchase agreements, Betty? The ones we approved at the last meeting?
We're waiting to get those back from
We don't.
the city attorneys.
Okay.
So that should take place very soon. I know that the attorney that they have working for them was extraordinarily busy late last week. And so I'm just waiting to get those back from.
There's a default date tomorrow.
There is, and that's a great point. We talked about, we should extend that date out. I mean, I think I haven't heard from her yet today. I know, of course, it was Labor Day weekend, so I haven't heard from her through the weekend. I think this intent is this resolution where the city, so long as they move forward with it tonight, is agreeing to the terms that are in that purchase agreement. But of course, it's possible, if not probable, that the signing is going to be later than tomorrow.
So we can let that one expire and
Change the date.
change the date unless there's something that they change in the contract that we agree to.
Right.
We could end up negotiating back and forth a few times.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would hope by next Tuesday we
don't have time.
Yeah.
October 1st is coming.
Yes, it is.
It is. And hopefully by next Tuesday, her and I have been able to work out the kinks, if you would.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I don't think so. I think that is, I thank you, Travis, for reminding me what it was. I think that is true. It's just the James Street agreement that we needed to formally put on the record. I think other than that, I'll prepare a document for your signature. That'll give us all four of our documents that we need for moving forward with this agreement. The city has their resolution. Hopefully we are most of the way through it, at least with the legal stuff.
Sounds good.
That's it for me.
All right. So we've got a little space. Carrie sent out vouchers this morning, so we might take a few minutes to read those and do vouchers. The public hearing's not for another 10 minutes.
And those are just the jury voucher, and there's a pay request from L&L Builders that has been approved by JLG. So.
Anybody like to make a motion to approve the vouchers?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Any Clay County Park discussion?
Nothing new since the last meeting.
Okay, great.
On going ahead with asking legislators to do a new statute, I wonder if you guys could work out something to suggest. We'll have that county meetings coming up in Sioux Falls. And it might be we could recruit some other legislators and other commissioners to join in with something like that.
Yeah.
If we had some sort of just an early draft.
Sure.
To get it started. It's probably getting a little late for this session, but something that may have a lot of co-support may work anyway. What's your opinion, Travis?
Yeah, I mean, you bringing up the county convention, what are we gonna do about next Tuesday? Cause that's when the meeting,
Yep.
that's when
Yep.
county convention
Right.
is also.
Yep. It's what, Monday and Tuesday next week?
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Or
right?
Tuesday, Wednesday, next week.
It seemed to me when I was looking over the agenda, like there's some sort of like executive board stuff at the beginning of the day. So I was trying to figure out when the first thing that would be appropriate for all of us to be up there for, and it looked like it was maybe noonish or something like that, like 11 or noon. And it was gonna go through the afternoon.
Unless you get roped into those
I-
boards.
If
Yeah.
you,
There's times they grab you and be like, we're short. Come.
Oh, all right.
if you, go to the keynote speech and things at the beginning, that all kind of starts at 10,
Okay.
but
Well, if
yeah, you know, the bulk of it starts kind of after lunch, so.
we have any strong reason not to move the meeting next week to give us room to all make it up there?
I can forward it to you.
Do you have anything for next week?
Get anything on that?
Drew's got something, I'm
actually-
sure.
Oh,
Actually,
he has,
Carrie can.
yeah, he's got something that he advertised for ordinances.
So,
It's already advertised.
yeah.
Cause there's one this week.
I mean,
And-
we could
and
move it,
say-
we'd have to re-advertise it, but
With
Oh,
our
that's
James Street
different.
thing too, we may
That's different.
need.
Yeah,
to
that's the
meet
district meeting. This
next
is
week.
statewide.
Yeah.
Well, theoretically, I have those purchase agreements back from the city and
What day
any
is it?
terms that need to be reapproved here would need to happen, hopefully.
I
next
never
week.
got anything on this convention. Can you forward it to me?
yeah, I can.
So is there anything anybody's gonna feel like they're gonna miss Tuesday morning at the county convention if we just have our regular meeting then?
Let's get that. That's mainly the glad handing part, I think.
Mhm.
So,
Not to diminish that. I
So-
guess I just did.
so I suppose we can just have our regular meeting then?
Yeah,
And then head up there afterwards.
it wouldn't be very kosher for us to all zoom in from Sioux Falls, I suppose.
Well, I mean, you could, there's nothing that says you can't. We did it during COVID, so.
I would like to know why these meetings aren't Wednesday, Thursday. Every county has a meeting on Tuesday, at some time.
Yeah, there was a reason for that, and I can't remember what it was. It's a good question. I know there was something several years ago, but I can't remember what it was.
I guess a related note, did you register us then or those that us that?
So I registered you and I registered Jeffrey. Dave, if you want to go, we'll get you registered. I'll send this stuff on to you.
Heard of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll go
I'm
as well.
surprised that you didn't get an email.
I got the one for the district thing on Thursday.
Are you getting them from Christy Jacobson?
Yeah, are you getting emails from her? If not,
No.
she hasn't
Yeah,
added
that's
you.
the problem.
Yeah.
No, I haven't gotten any.
Okay,
Okay.
But
then
you
they
resent
need to
hers,
get you
didn't
added
you?
to their list. What's that?
You resent the one from Christie to all of us,
Mhm.
didn't you?
Yeah.
I know
think
that's
I
the way it
received
usually
that from
works.
you,
I
not
usually
Thought
get
I
you.
did, but maybe I didn't. Maybe I just assumed you guys were getting it.
Yeah.
Let's see. See if I can find it here real quick and send it to you.
All kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, cause I'm supposed to go Tuesday, Wednesday to Aberdeen to South Dakota Housing Conference.
Oh,
I might just cancel that.
well, there's probably no promises about this one either.
Okay.
Less of a drive.
Well, I don't wanna go to Aberdeen anyway, so.
Yeah, yeah, understood.
Yeah,
Is
it
there a
would be
state's
great
attorney
if we were all there.
Portion
That
of
would-
this?
Yeah,
Okay.
I looked at it, not specifically. I mean, I think it's mostly for auditors,
Yeah.
commissioners, treasurers.
Yeah.
Is we do our yearly out in Deadwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they go to Deadwood.
Yeah, they go to Deadwood and they go off privately.
Yeah, and normally they send us to Pier.
Talk to somebody, that's what it sounds like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great. It's in Sioux Falls.
Mm.
Yeah. So then,
You want to register me then too, Carrie?
Okay.
so all of us. Wow.
There may be a meeting.
So then, Betty, I thought you said you had a scheduling conflict or something. You
No,
you
I
don't?
got rid of
Okay.
it. I got
Okay.
rid of it.
So I will register the two of you then, and
And this is where?
Sioux Falls.
Yeah.
The
at
Ramcoda.
The Ramcoda, yeah.
Still don't have my computer worked out. I've been going to go to Erickson's.
I don't have
All week.
mine done either. I've been meaning to call them and I just didn't get it done, so.
You know, I went over, it took an hour, but it now really works.
I was gonna try to get in this morning before meeting and then I got a call from somebody who wanted to meet me at my shop in 8 minutes, at about 10 after 8.
You know,
So-
sometimes if you just call them, they can remote in and do the
Yeah.
things they need to do, so.
Yeah, it's so much easier though if you're there
Yeah,
and they can see what you're doing while you're, yeah.
I eat,
a lot easier.
produce candy then while I'm there. Candy's got good, fairly good serving chocolates. They seem to be fresh enough. They're not from last Halloween or anything.
Oh.
You better get your Halloween candy before they put the Christmas decorations up next week, I'm sure.
Yes,
That's just,
Maybe send that email around to everybody
Yeah.
again on the agenda.
Sure,
Because I'm realizing now, I was thinking I had that, and I think I just had the dates written down from
Okay.
the spring conference. And I
Yeah.
must have pulled the agenda up online, because I was looking a couple times and I couldn't find it.
I sure will,
Awesome.
yeah.
We'll make sure everybody has it. I know I've seen the agenda, but it is not in there.
I've never seen Miss Christie Jacobs name
Mm.
before. So.
She's been at the district meetings, but you might not. She's
She's quiet.
she's the executive director of the County Commission Association.
Okay.
All right, well, it's 9:30. So we will convene the public hearing on the 2024 budget. Anybody online wish to speak to the 2024 budget?
I have not received anything by mail or any comments at all. so. I think that's pretty typical.
Well,
I haven't sold the library budget item. You know, last year we took that out of our wages. What are we gonna do this year? Cause all the other non-mandated stuff got cut. And that's how that got added in last year.
Yep.
Right. So I think my recollection of that one, I happened to be in attendance at that meeting, and I think there was, if I remember right, I think it was 8,000 for libraries and then 4,000 for
Arts Council.
Vermillion Area Arts Council. I think that it would be, I think that we should continue the funding out of our pay for the libraries, if that's how we're gonna do it. But
Well, see, we gave up our raise last year to do that.
Right.
Now we're gonna take a pay cut if we
Yeah.
do that.
I suppose you're right, but the savings would be continuing next year unless we gave ourselves that raise, right? I mean, I suppose, we didn't take the 10% raise. And we continue to not take that 10% raise. So I think that we should.
We don't get a 10%
No.
raise every year.
No, but I think that isn't the library item in the current budget?
It is because it was in there last year.
Right.
And last year when we approved it, I said, this is how we could pay for it last year.
Yeah.
But now going next year, somebody needs to figure out how we're going to pay for that.
So
And
I think that the 4,000 for the VAC should be removed, but.
Which it is,
We should,
because,
I think we
They
should
didn't
leave
request
the
it.
They
8,000
didn't
in.
request, so.
but how do we pay? What are
Yeah.
we paying the 8,000 with?
Yeah, so I'd like to sort of just step back a little bit and think about how we think about libraries. Because if we don't fund this, anybody who uses the Vermillion Library outside of the city of Vermillion has to pay something like $50.
Not yet. They
Not
were
yet.
thinking about doing it, but they're not doing it.
Well, they raised the cost this year. If we were to actually go by population and pay our fair share, we would be somewhere, I think, around 138,000, and they're not asking for that. What they're asking for is a small contribution in relative to the size of the budget as a whole. And I have really strong feelings about libraries.
And that's fine. I'm just asking, how do we pay for it?
Yeah. So I think my view is that it becomes permanently part of the tax base.
But it's not mandated, so you can't make it permanent. Because the state
Right,
statute doesn't
right,
say that we have
Right.
to.
But an assumption in the same way as we assume we're going to fix roads every year, we assume we're going to fix bridges, we assume.
But we have that fiscal responsibility that we are mandated to do that by the state.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And I agree that the food pantry's a good idea, is a good concept, and the conservation district and all those other non-mandated ones we had to cut. All I'm asking is, how are we supposed to pay? How do we explain to the general public on these non-mandated ones, how are we paying for it? Last year was simple. We took it out of we didn't get our 12% raise. Well, the 3% that we might give ourselves this year is not going to cover it.
Right. And I am comfortable thinking about that as part of our, sort of our tax base. It's what we pay every year for, I think of it as a necessity, as having a public library for every citizen in the county.
I totally agree with the aspect of the library is very important, and I'm an avid library user. But also, my two questions is, how do we pay for it, and how is the library the most non-mandated thing, more important than the other non-mandated thing, like the food pantry? There's plenty of kids that aren't eating too. So how do we justify that the library is the most important non-mandated program, and we're going to give them money and not the food pantry? That's my question. I think that's what question we get from the public. So I'm totally for supporting the library. How do we do that?
Well, last year as a private citizen, I spoke to that the commission when this was on the topic of discussion, and my take on it is that what the library provides is a uniquely public resource that is critically important for a host of citizenship issues. And so therefore, as a local government body, we have a responsibility to ensure that if we're going to say, you can look at our plans online or something like that. that we have access to, that any citizen would have access to a computer at the library. If someone wants to go and look up, state laws, they can go and they can spend some time in the South Dakota room there, and they can work on that. So I think that the citizenship aspect of it is critical, and I think it's also important that it's not just library; it's libraries. So that $8,000 funding the majority goes to the Vermillion Library, but I believe we also make a contribution to Beersford, so that people at the northern end of the county have access to that, and it then does give us the ability to ask these entities to ensure that they continue to provide free access to all the county residents, not just the city ones that are getting city funding as well. So I think that the public meeting rooms, there just aren't other public meeting rooms that are accessible in the ways that these are, and that's really important for the citizenship. So I think that there are a lot of other non-mandated programs. I totally agree that we should certainly consider funding. But I think we'd have to work hard for that. But as a portion of the total budget, I think that this $8,000 is well worth the investment. So.
Yeah, I think it's really difficult to have a democracy without free public libraries. I mean, that was Thomas Jefferson, right? He said you really can't have a democracy without free public libraries. It's, the most common thing I see people do coming into the library is sitting down with newspapers and periodicals. And it's how people keep up with you can get the plain talk there. You can find out what's going on in the state legislature, and people sit there and they do that.
And I think in my mind, the cost is quite reasonable too. We're talking about considerably less than $1 per county resident per year. So to me, that's in the scope of things, that's it's not much more than we're spending on our new bench to sit here at. So to me, it's we get a lot for that $8,000.
And I don't think anybody disputes the value of it. How do we pay for it?
Since we opted out for $600,000.
Yeah, I am totally on your side there, Jeff. How do we pay for it is the question.
Yeah. So I think maybe what we need to do is, since we're really done essentially with budget review, is take a look at what it looks like with and without the library in there. Yeah. So let's do it that way.
Yeah.
What's our 3% total up to, Karen?
Oh gosh, I'd have to look, and my computer's not working like we talked.
About $2,400.
I can get that for you.
No, $3,000. About $600 a year per person, per commissioner.
Yeah. 600 per commissioner. And our library budget is about 1,600 per commissioner.
Yeah, I guess I don't feel that we have to think of the library as something that always has to be taken out of commissioner salaries. And I would prefer not to think of it that way. Yeah. I'd like to think of the library as something that comes out of the general fund budget. And we organize general fund budget. I mean, there are some options that folks have given us when they've talked to us about their budgets. And I think we need to really see what the bottom line is. So maybe that's next week's meeting. I know, Carrie, if you can get us a good update on where we are, and we can take, I'll go back and review, and everybody maybe go back and review what department heads have told us about, what could be moved and what can't be moved, and see where we are with the bottom line. And then we can have that discussion next week. Does that make sense?
But even if we can't fund it, the libraries aren't closing.
No, the libraries aren't closing, but essentially for a lot of Clay County citizens, they might close. The library would vary. I mean, we talked about this last year when Dan came in, and the library director, and discussed that for now the library board knowing what a pinch we were in 2 years ago, they said, okay, we won't charge people this year, but we expect that you will continue. Well, if we don't continue to fund, what libraries around the state do is they charge out of jurisdiction. It's the Vermillion Library, the Beersford Library, the Wakanda Library, and they have a fee that they normally charge non-residents. And all of a sudden, Clay County people who didn't live within a city jurisdiction would become non-residents. And for a lot of them, the library is closed because they can't pay $50. I mean, I have friends who would not be able to afford $50. And essentially that's closing the library for those people.
That's the library's choice to do that, correct?
But so 2 years ago, when Dan came in, we're in a lot worse financial system or situation than we were 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. Not by a little bit, but by a lot. So I'm just trying to figure out, especially when we had this conversation last year, when we were able to not cost the county any money to fund it. We've had a year to think about how we're going to do it. Has anybody come up with an idea yet in that year's time frame of how we're not going to cost the county to fund this?
Oh, I think it is going to cost the county to fund this.
No, that was the conversation we had last year. We figured out how to do it without costing the county any money. We took it out of our wages. I mean, you've had a year to think about how can we do this now? Because you knew this was coming again. Has anybody come up with an idea yet?
My idea is that it's funded as part of the general fund of the county.
That's not an idea to save the money, the county money.
No, it's not going to save the county money.
That's just taking money out of the county general fund and saying, we're going to do this.
It's exactly.
How do you explain that to the other people who got cut? And how do you explain to the department heads that we cut 10% of their budget? And they're mandated. They willingly came forward and cut 10%. How do we do it? How do we justify that to non-mandated? And how do we fund it without costing the county? I mean, that was the question that was posed last year. We had a short-term solution last year. I just want to know what people thought. They've had the whole year. They knew this was coming. What's your idea to solve this problem?
Yeah. And again, my idea to solve the problem is not to always use cuts from other people, but essentially to say that going forward, the library contribution becomes part of our what we fund every year.
How does that not cost the county?
It does cost the county.
How are you?
You're
not coming up with an idea then. You're just going, we're going to pay it.
I think that the reality is that there are many non-mandated items that are important for county government to fund through their general fund. And right now we're in a particularly difficult situation, but I think that, at the point that the law enforcement center is completed and our budget is more flexible, I think that the question should be now, which of these additional ones should we add on? I think
that's a completely different conversation for 2 years down the road.
I think that it's the same conversation in different terms. We're saying, should we spend any money on anything that's non-mandated? And I think that the answer is yes, we should. And I think that this particular one is a very good investment of $8,000, which is a small portion of our entire county budget. So I think that
and every non-mandated one that we cut can say the same thing, but we did cut them all.
That's true. But I do think that there is a unique argument for the public services that a library provides.
I don't think it's any more unique than the food pantry. Because before I want to read a book, I'd rather have a meal. But we cut that willingly.
I think that we absolutely, if you would like to have a discussion of adding additional funding in and potentially raising our levy to put the food pantry back on, I'd be quite interested.
Because they didn't ask for it. They said, you can take us off. Just like the Beersford Library did, just like the Irene Library said, we don't need it. They didn't request it. They got it because the Vermillion Public Library got it.
Yeah, and this year we did change things a little bit, and we asked these non-mandated programs to make a request. And this year the library did the Vermillion Library made a formal request, and they, explained exactly how they would use the money, what the money was for. And they're really transparent.
That's great. How do we pay for it? That's all I'm asking.
Yeah.
And everybody keeps skirting that question, other than we're just gonna pay it.
Yeah.
We pay for
That's
it with our
not-
property tax.
That is not how you save the county money.
No, that's right. It
There's no
doesn't save the
dispute of
county money.
importance of it. There's
Yeah.
none whatsoever.
Yeah.
It says there's no dispute of the importance of the food pantry. I mean, that's, my question is, how do we pay for it? I'll gladly pay for it if it can be done right.
So let's look at the numbers next week, and see where we are.
All of the numbers on,
Hmm.
all non-mandated that did
Yep.
send us requests.
Yep.
With those.
Well, they didn't send them because they knew they weren't gonna get any money. We told them that 2 years ago. As long as we were opting out.
Several of them did.
We did send out a letter,
The-
didn't we?
All of the libraries did. I believe the food pantry did. WH Over, I think, sent one. The fair, of course. The Dakota Senior Meals, and they also requested money for transportation, which they haven't done in the past. Off the top of my head, those are the ones I can think of, but Salvation Army, just off the top of my head, those are.
Okay.
You send us that.
Yep. I think I actually put them all in your big budget. I think I did.
I'm leaning back again.
I mean, I think that the way that I was thinking about this when we were reviewing the budget initially was that, last year when the commission, well, this year, I guess, when the commission has not taken the 10% raise that we gave everyone else across the board. Had we taken that 10% raise, we wouldn't have in 2024 given ourselves a 10% pay cut. So that 10% raise continues to not be a portion of the funds that are paying the commission. So declining that 1 year means that the following year, you're also not paying that money. So that seemed to me to be a savings in the budget year to year going forward, as long as we didn't take that 10%.
You do realize we opted out for another $600,000.
I do.
So, I mean, us not taking it is not saving the money every year. I mean, yes, we were maybe entitled to it, but it was a way to not increase the budget and pay for a project. Actually, two projects, the Arts Council and the
Right.
libraries.
Yeah.
How do we do that without increasing the budget again?
I think what
Our
Jeffrey's
600,000.
saying is that it's part of the base. In other words,
We're in a worse financial situation this year than we were last year. And that's not going to get any better until we are done with the jail and we stop opting out. So how are we
Yeah.
saving money?
I think we all understand that, but I think what Jeffrey's trying to say is that, you always start with a budget base, and the base is what you spent last year. And it's only an increase if you increase the amount of money that part of the budget is getting. So it's just as if, one department asked for the same thing this year as last year. And we had the same tax base last year as this year. It becomes part of the base. So it's not base plus. And you're talking about it as if it's base plus, but it's not. It's part of the base budget. And I do understand that what you're saying is that, look, we are in dire financial straits. We are opting out for $600,000. We've got a lot of budget problems. Every place we can cut, we should. And I think that what Jeffrey's doing is making a value statement. He's saying that this is different from any other non-mandated item in that it is a matter of citizenship. It's the ability to be part of a democracy. It's shortchanging people who don't live in cities with libraries, and it's costing them money that many of them don't have. And so they lose the capacity to be good citizens
Where is it costing them money?
if they have to pay a library fee.
Are we talking an if, or is that an absolute?
Well, it would be up to the libraries. And I'm suggesting that it ought,
Choice to do that to people.
yeah,
But
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 I-
that's not necessarily going to happen.
so since the founding of the United States, there have been public libraries.
Yeah, I don't.
And
Okay.
those public libraries, there is a guideline from the State Library Association that tells local libraries that for people who do not reside in your jurisdiction, and in this case, it's the cities, you must charge them.
Must or can?
No, it tells them, the guideline tells them to charge people.
So they're not following that guideline then?
They did not.
So none of them
That-
do? Because Beersford doesn't do it either, and neither does Irene. Or
Well,
they mean.
there's a list. If you read the application, they give you a list of what other libraries charge
Great.
around the state.
So they're not following the law, is what you're
No,
saying?
it's not a law.
Well, you say
it's
they
not a law.
must charge.
It's not a law. It's a guideline from the State Library Association. So libraries work completely differently than any other part of government. They all function based on a state library system, and individual libraries are paid for by governments, and yet they are independent in many ways. So you know, there are things that local jurisdictions can do, like local jurisdiction could create a mandate and require a library to do something. Most local jurisdictions don't do that. That's happening in the South now with books and so on. And it's creating kind of a crisis for librarians across the country. But you know, it's a very, very different kind of system. And it's always been in the civic realm, not the political realm. So it's been operated in the civic realm of society. Library boards, this library board is appointed by the city. And we could ask certainly if we could appoint a board member. I think they would probably be open to that.
What we're going way off the budget base here. So I'm still caught up with, if in their guidelines it says they must charge, why are they not? Are they just picking and choosing what they want to follow?
I think there's no enforcement mechanism because it's a civic organization. It's not a political organization.
Well, the mechanism to enforce it would be what's your address, and if it's outside city limits, that's pretty simple.
Well, so local libraries are independent.
Okay.
They're entirely independent. And so like local libraries have the choice of what to do. There's a state guideline that comes from a private state library association. Every library has this. I've actually been to the National Conference of Library and Information Officers over the years. And yeah, I mean, it's a unique system, but it's an early American system based on the idea that every citizen should have access to information if they're going to participate in a democracy. And so we shortchange our citizens if we don't give them the tools to be good citizens.
Is that tool going to end if we don't fund it?
It might. It might.
It didn't when we didn't fund it.
It might. But I think we're splitting hairs here. And what I'd like to do, I mean, I think our positions are pretty clear. I don't know if Dick, if you've got anything you'd like to add to the conversation. It's a difficult one.
I'm taking notes for me to study over the next week.
Okay.
Okay. I think what we need to do is to make a comparison of all of this. Now make sure I'm understanding this right, Carrie. You sent letters to each of the non-mandated groups that were on 2 years ago.
Right.
Saying that we're considering a budget now.
Yep.
We're going to require further information on how that money would be used.
Yeah,
as it goes. And you got.
along with an actual application for
With
them
the
to fill
application
out. Yep.
form, right?
Yep.
So all of those non-mandated groups that we did 2 years ago or 3 years ago have gotten notice that we're in the budget process.
Yep.
And I think they all understand that things are in pretty tough shape this year, worse than last year, worse than the year before. And from the very first day I was on commission, some 6 years ago, I was saying, man, this outfit's gonna be in the next budget year is gonna be, that's when the feces is gonna hit the fan. Didn't necessarily, or the year after that, or the year after that, or the year after that, but 2 years ago, things started to really, with our additional expenses due to law enforcement, is really put us in a bind there. And I think, to be fair, we need to reconsider that list and compare what the most critical need is for the county carrying out our basic functions. Some of those, including the library, go to support the basic functions of county government. And we should, she sends this list out to us again, so we've all got a fresh list with the current requests. Take a fresh look at those with the idea that reevaluate where our priorities are. And we may end up missing some of our afternoon activities at Sioux Falls next week, but this is probably important enough that we ought to do that. That's what I think.
That seems like an appropriate path forward to me. Yep.
And it could very well be that everything gets axed from that list.
Yep.
I think we all should keep an open mind in that respect. And it's not, the other thing that we should consider is that budget requests are not always honored in full. It could be that any one or all of these would get say 20% or 50% of what they're asking, if we could afford that. End of soapbox.
Well, I'm good with that. And, I think if we can get the sort of the
Well, I'm reading
all that
the
updated information
request here from the library, are their meeting minutes.
Yeah, if we could get everything a few days ahead, that'd be really helpful. I'm sorry.
So in their minutes or whatever they send us here, they currently charge $15, correct?
No, 45.
Okay. So you're talking a $5 increase to 50?
I think that's what
And
they
this was
voted.
this was on a 3-year plan. This says, that they were going to raise this.
Mm-hmm.
And they defend their, thing in here about, people, here it is, even at $45 or higher, cardholder who checks out estimated 2 to 4 items recoup their cost.
So they charge for a library card now?
Yeah.
No.
Not if you're inside of
Non-residents.
County.
It says in here, the non-residents, they
Right.
charge.
Clay County, so I think
If
that's.
you have somebody that works in Vermillion and lives in Sioux City, they can buy a library card for the $45.
So what are they considering a non-resident outside of Clay County?
Anything outside of Clay County at
Okay.
this point, that would change to outside of anyone outside of the city limits of Vermillion going forward.
Possibly.
If we
Possibly.
Yeah,
So
it's-
now,
That's not a
now it's
guarantee.
outside of Clay County is considered
Correct.
non-residents.
Correct.
Okay. Because it also says it ensures that we're in compliant with accreditation standards.
Right.
So to be accredited, they have to charge. From my understanding, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Non-residents.
Okay,
Mhm.
so that's what I'm trying to figure out. If this is their statements. So it says no change to non-resident fee was made in 2023. So there was no change made this year.
I think it's for next year that the change will happen.
Okay.
I think it's in more recent library minutes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Well,
think
this
that
is what
for
was sent
June.
with our last week packet.
Oh, this is last week's packet?
This was last week's packet.
I
I
think
pulled
we
it up.
had similar language 2 months.
But this is from, let's see.
Yeah, this is July 21, 23, non-resident fee review.
Yep, and that would, I mean, they do review those annually, and it's up to the board of directors of the library to determine.
So does anybody
what the fees will
know
be.
when that next board meeting is going to be for the library?
They meet monthly, I think.
They meet every month.
What was the date of that one, Dave?
July 21st.
So they'll meet before the end of the month, before
Yeah.
we finalize our budget.
So I'm just trying to understand this on their fee, because it says the South Dakota State Library Accreditation Standards require the library seeks equitable reimbursement for services to persons who do not reside in the political subdivisions providing financial support for the library. These fees are at least equal to the per capita rate of income from the political subdivisions, which provide libraries principal tax support.
So how does that work on political subdivision? Does that mean the
Exactly.
people in Dakota Dunes?
That's my question.
Well, so the city of Vermillion and the county of Vermillion are two political subdivisions that provide funding to the library. Therefore, we should not be charged, charging our residents.
But our
library
political
fees.
subdivision is District 17.
No,
extends-
Which
No.
does not provide.
no,
support to
political
the library.
subdivision is a much broader term. And so a municipality is political subdivision, a county is a political subdivision. Yeah.
Yeah, District 17 is a legislative district. That's entirely different.
Well, that's,
So it says here, a non-resident fee is designed to require patrons who do not contribute to taxes to the area library. So our county residents don't contribute taxes?
No, the funding that we provide
That's the $8,000.
Well,
Is-
45
is for the.
for here, for Vermillion.
There you go.
4,000.
Yep, so that is for the county residents that do not live in the city of Vermillion, so that they're pitching in, so. And therefore don't have to be charged the fee by that rule.
It says a non-resident fee is designed to require patrons. So you're saying, I'm just totally out of the loop here, but it says who do not contribute taxes to the area library.
So say if
This
you,
year.
yeah,
And we have every year up to this year.
I think.
I'm reading
you're-
this as a resident.
Right.
I don't,
I think the year that we didn't, if I remember correctly, the Public Library Foundation contributed that 4,000.
Yeah, that's right.
think that's what
There was
happened.
1 year that we did not, 2 years ago.
This is Steve Waller. That is correct. The Library Foundation did cover that 1 year with the support of the library board.
thanks, Steve. Well, it sounds like we need more information. So let's plan on taking this up next week as we look at the budget as a whole.
Can we pose the question to the library board then? If we didn't fund them this year, what's going to happen? They should be able to answer that, correct?
Would you like me to do that?
That'd be great.
Okay.
Who's gonna get a hold of them?
I will.
Okay.
I'll talk to Dan Berniston, who's got everybody's info.
so currently Vermillion's in the top 5 of the highest non-resident fees charged in the state.
The $45, what they could charge. I wonder how many non-residents they actually get. I mean, somewhere no matter where you live, you obviously have a public library somewhere.
Right.
I was just wondering how many.
There's
non-residents.
probably quite a few people from, say, Union County that come and have a library card a year.
Beersford
So-
charges $50. Rapid City's 110.
See, there'd be quite a few in Beersford and in Irene, for instance, because the out of county comes right into the city limits in both towns.
I'd expect Dixon, people
is-
from Newcastle.
Which is funny with Beersford because they don't charge that to out of county
Yeah,
residents. That they're at 50. Because my daughter's had library cards.
Well, we're contributing to Beersford. So
We haven't,
aren't.
they're the
that a
ones who,
portion of that?
they haven't requested money.
Oh,
for a
they
long
didn't
time.
request it. No, it was Irene Wakanda. And what was the
They
other?
got cut same time that one year.
We did this that 1 year. I mean, when we cut everybody,
But Beersford didn't, they hadn't requested for a couple of years.
yeah, they did.
They did? I thought-
Yeah. Yeah, they're part of that 8,000.
Right.
So Vermillion gets the 4, Beersford is, I believe 1,500, and then Wakanda's the.
But when I first got on, they weren't getting any money.
No, they weren't initially,
For the first couple of years, they just never asked.
right?
And I know they weren't charging the non-resident fee.
So currently it says the Vermillion has 103 non-resident card holders. And 87 of them are active. So that's at $50 a piece, that's $5,000.
so 20 some of them are contributors, not really a user's fee.
Just
which is
supporters.
good,
Yeah.
which is good.
Well, that depends on, what do they consider active? You used it in the last year?
Probably, yeah, that you swiped your card to check out a book or a video or whatever.
They say that they're suggesting the non-resident fees go from 45 to 50 starting January 24. So assuming it is going up.
Mhm.
So it doesn't say if we don't get funding from the county, it's not going up. It's still going up. So, I mean, I understand.
Right, but-
you say your people can't afford that, but it doesn't depend on what we do. It's still going up.
Well, so I think Dave, I think that fee is in 2024, that's not expected unless, we talked to the board and they're saying, well, it's totally dependent on whether county funding comes through, but they're not planning on charging that to Clay County residents. So
If you live in Burbank, it goes from 0 to 50.
If they start doing
If we don't-
a city of Vermillion non-resident.
Right.
Right now, it's just outside of Clay County non-resident.
But if you live in Burbank, the library card fee would go from 0 because we're contributing now
Could.
to $50.
Could.
In 2024.
There's nothing saying that
I
they're
haven't
going to.
I haven't found that in here. It may be in here, but I haven't found it yet. That nothing says it's dependent on county funding.
Yeah, they really, Dan can't say that because it's up to the board. The board will vote on that. And we don't know how the board would vote.
So these are recommendations.
Mhm.
Yeah, and what you said earlier, that that fee is determined on whether the government entity involved provides monetary support to the deal, as you said about 10 minutes ago. You read that 10 minutes ago, Dave.
The what? I'm sorry, I was reading again.
That involved the District 17 thought that.
The political subdivisions that
political
you're back on?
subdivisions,
Okay,
correct.
yep.
But the city or the public library in Vermillion can just say non-residents are residents who don't live in the city of Vermillion. They don't do that currently, and they're not contemplating it currently because I think they're under the assumption that they're going to get the funding. So it's not a topic of conversation. If we were to cut it, then it would come to their board, I'm sure, to discuss it, but nothing says that it's going to happen. And it would go from 0 to 50 if you don't live in the city of Vermillion.
Correct.
Yeah,
Still gotta figure out
and
how to
really
pay for it.
the reason it didn't happen was because the Library Foundation funded our portion. Right, so the Library Foundation came up with $4,000 that it gave to Vermillion Library in lieu of our $4,000.
2 years ago, correct.
2 years ago.
Okay. All right, shall we go on? Any building project updates?
We have another meeting tomorrow. Hopefully tonight the city signs the purchase agreements. We're getting close because I'm sure there's bids are gonna be, I think they bid out the dirt work.
Right.
They did, and they're also gonna be advertising, I think it's this week. If it didn't go in last week, it goes in this week, for like the long lead time, the longer lead time materials, I think. So there is another bid packet going out.
Excellent.
Trust.
Any joint jurisdiction news?
We'll have something come that's advertised for an ordinance change, 2 of them, I think.
Oh, for joint.
Yeah, for joint. Joint jurisdiction, there was really nothing. We haven't met since last meeting.
Okay. Any need for an executive session?
I could quickly just give some updates on stuff that's going through. Things appropriate going to executive session.
Okay. Sarah,
Move to go into executive session.
Second.
Discuss legal matters.
Legal.
okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we're going into executive session.
Move to come out of executive session.
I'll second.
Right, there's a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are out of executive session. Are there any other matters?
I do actually have one thing that I'd forgotten to mention. This actually, I wanted to mention this at the last meeting. I forgot about it, but the RAISE grant that we applied for. So that was the Rural Access Infrastructure Grant through the DOT for the trails planning was denied. And it's a competitive grant process, so I wasn't too surprised. I did get an email following up on that, offering that someone from the DOT that is involved in reviewing these is willing to do a one-time review session with interested parties about why it was denied, what would make a stronger application in the future. And I was interested in doing that, and I think possibly looping in a couple of the other like the maybe someone from Yankton County or some of the other stakeholders that had a real hand in putting the grant application together, and the National Park Service, I was thinking. Yep. So I think that, you know, whether or not we specifically submitted a similar proposal in the future, it does seem like a pretty awesome pool of money that we could use for various kinds of projects. It can be used for construction. We could use it to, you know, build more bike paths along our roads, you know. So it just seems like something that understanding that grant process would be valuable. So if the rest of the commission is comfortable with that, I was thinking of trying to schedule that meeting. And it would probably be, you know, I'd be happy to sit on there as a representative of the Clay County Commission to just kind of get an idea of what did and didn't work in our application, and loop in anybody else that was involved in that process that would like to. So does that sound okay to everybody?
Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thanks.
Anything else? Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
All right.
Opposed? We are adjourned.